Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Interact Amsterdam Virtual Conference 2023. We hope everyone's enjoyed the day so far. We've had two fantastic talks already from Emily Trotter and Vanessa Bennett. And for our next talk now, we have a team from across the Condé Nast universe, who Lisa will introduce shortly. In this talk, the team are going to discuss their approach to collaboration at Condé Nast, how it streamlines complex projects, accelerates processes, and encourages innovative solutions. Please join in the discussion in the chat. Just please make sure your chat settings are switched to everyone and not just hosts and panelists, and that way everyone will be able to see your messages. And if you've got any questions for the team, you can submit them either in the chat or in the Q&A function, and I can get through as many as I can at the end. We're using auto-generated captions today. As always, there's a chance some of these may get a bit muddled live, but we'll make sure these are all tidied up when we post the recording on our YouTube channel. So without further ado, I'll hand over to you, Lisa, to introduce the team and kick things off.
Great, thank you. So welcome to our talk. We are here to talk about the power of cross-functional collaboration and what this actually means at Condé Nast. But first of all, we just want to say hello. My name is Lisa Payne, and I'm the Director of UX Research here at Condé Nast. And I'm joined by three talented ladies and designers from the Condé Nast technology team. So I'm just going to let those girls introduce themselves before we get stuck into the presentation. So B, over to you to say hello.
Hi, I'm B, Senior Product Designer on Vogue. Danielle.
Hey everybody, I'm Danielle. I'm Senior UX Content Designer for The New Yorker.
And I am Lily. I'm a senior interactive designer and developer working across all brands.
Okay, so welcome everybody, but let's step back a moment and let's talk about collaboration. That's what we're here to talk about. What exactly does that mean? So it means to work jointly with others or together, especially in an intellectual endeavor. And maybe we should just perhaps delete that last one. We don't want to be talking about enemies or going against each other in this conversation. But what does it actually mean in business? What does collaboration in business particularly mean? Well, collaboration is a working practice whereby individuals work together for a common purpose to achieve business benefit. It's actually directed. So whether an organization likes it or not, people will actually collaborate because human contact is a need for all of us. For organizations, the important point is to direct that need towards a working practice. And it involves people, it involves individuals. So collaboration amongst machines is pretty straightforward. But when it comes to humans, it's not so simple because, you know, we have got complex needs, we've got extremely rich method needs of communication, we tend to form social bonds and a lot of the times have our own agenda. So ultimately, collaboration does require a lot of effort. Collaboration is work, good collaboration is a lot of work. And importantly, collaboration has a business reason and a need or a purpose. So collaboration is key. Remember that none of us is as smart as all of us. The power of cross-functional collaboration lies in its ability to bring diverse skills, perspectives, and expertise from different areas of an organization. But what really are the benefits of collaboration? So it brings people together and encourages innovation and creativity. It brings more comprehensive and effective solutions to problems. It helps with better decision making. It gives us more effective use of times and resources. And collaborative teams are more adaptable to change, allowing quicker responses to evolving challenges. It helps to reduce misunderstandings and fosters a shared understanding of business goals and objectives. And it ensures a holistic understanding of user needs. It provides opportunities for knowledge sharing and skill transfer. And finally, it gives us higher levels of employee engagement and job satisfaction. So collaboration is good, right? But let's step back for a moment and have a look at our world at Condé Nast Technology. Firstly, let's talk designer hats. So we at Condé Nast, designers here assume a multitude of roles. From UX designers to content designers, we've got design system specialists, UX researchers like myself, interaction designers, you name it, we've got all those designers. But we're also visual storytellers, we're also strategic problem solvers. We're line managers, we're senior leaders, We stay abreast of the latest design trends and technologies. We're innovators, we're pioneers in this ever-evolving world of digital print and media. And I guess you could say we've got pretty big hat stands in our offices.
Yes, Lisa, and we have actually a lot of brands. We have 20 unique brands with unique user needs, different tools, different platform, print, magazine, apps, which means a lot of different stakeholders, roadmaps, branding guidelines, and design requirements. And also means different audiences that are quite unique. And this is because we have a user-centered design, but also so many different users that are our customer and that they read our magazine. And now the digital, because that's what actually we are doing. The digital landscape that we have to deal with is dynamic, with the user expectation evolving at different kind of pace. User demands experiences and not only visually appealing, but also intuitive, seamless, and in tune with the latest technology and trends. Staying ahead requires not only to be reactive, but proactive, and understanding our user expectations and needs.
We also have a long-standing print heritage. Some of our brands like Vogue and The New Yorker have been publishing print magazines since the early 1900s and continue to offer print to this day. When we design digital experiences, we're always considering if our work will have a presence in print, and if so, how it might map to a very different medium. But on the other side of the print spectrum are the very varied ways that users can interact with and change their digital experience. When we design, we are always considering a range of devices and screen sizes like laptops, phones, and tablets, interactions like clicking, swiping, scrolling, tabbing, along with the methods of interaction, which could come in the form of a mouse, keyboard, screen reader, or touch.
Condé Nast designers also face a chunky set of challenges simply due to our global footprint. With design teams stretched across the globe, we're hit with communication hurdles intensified by varying time zones and cultural contexts. Anyone else with this spread will know how hard it is to simply get everyone into one meeting when New York is waking up as Bangalore is heading to bed. If we're lucky enough, we have a teeny tiny happy hour where we all cross paths. Also, as a global entity with publications spanning the world, the diversity of customers and cultural nuances introduces another layer of complexity. We're constantly faced with contrasting needs of local versus global markets. Beyond locations and time zones, we also need to think about splitting ourselves across multiple innovation horizons, the here and now, the immediate future, and the long-term future. We have to navigate the challenges of constant change and exploration, all while staying firmly anchored in the present. Who'd have thought time travel was a design job requirement, but it's a pretty cool superpower nonetheless.
So yes, beyond our many design hats that we've talked about, we also have a lot to deal with and a lot of challenges. So let's go back to collaboration. A major key to success in this mess we've just talked about is the power of collaboration. However, it ultimately boils down to finding that sweet spot when it comes to collaboration. So if we pull back and go too far one way, we're talking about a mere coexistence with our work colleagues. If we go too far the other way, we're talking about too much contact, and therefore we start to risk collision. So how do we find that sweet spot in the middle? So let me introduce you to the Condé Code. Our Condé Code defines our purpose, and it serves as an aspirational vision for how we will evolve and grow together as a company. We've got 6 simple guidelines to remember. Champion all voices, be curious, focus on tomorrow, stay inspired, earn trust, and of course, work together. Let's keep these 6 points in mind as we step away and hear from some specific examples of when we put this code into practice. So I'm going to hand you over to Lily now, and she's going to tell us about an experience she had when she was working on Pitchfork.
Great, thanks, Lisa. I'm going to walk you through one of my favorite projects, the Pitchfork Reviews Explorer. So as you've seen, there are a lot of corners of design at Condé. The team I work on is called Data Story Lab. We are a team of designers and developers. We sit between editorial, product design, and engineering to solve for unique and interactive user experiences. We help identify opportunities to experiment beyond what's currently possible. And then we find ways to integrate successful content patterns into the broader offerings for all of our brands. So looking at Pitchfork specifically, Pitchfork reviews are the bread and butter of their website. Well known as Pitchfork's prominent and sometimes controversial voice in the music world, many users spend a lot of time on the site falling down the rabbit hole, discovering new reviews, but still many older reviews are not resurfaced. So Pitchfork wanted to create an innovative way for readers to discover all of the reviews on the site, so kind of like browsing through the stacks of a record store. So the problem here, how can we facilitate this experience of discovery in order to find something unique, exciting, and personal? The design process involved many different teams' expertise. We may have been the team tasked with solving this problem, but we didn't get there alone. Of course, many teams typically touch any given project like this, but this was more collaborative than any one team taking their task into a silo and bringing it back to the group. I'll walk through some of the key points in the design process to show how the expertise and inclusion of these teams was integral in making this experience a success. The design process started first with sketches to nail down a visual direction and user experience that could then be shared and workshopped. To start, we knew what data we would have available to us. So every review on the site has a rating, a genre, a date, an artist. When you're browsing through a record store, things are generally grouped by genre, so it's easy to find other similar artists to the ones you like. Could we link the reviewed artist to the Spotify API to connect them on similarity, give users like a little connection there? At this point, we connected with the engineering team to make sure that what we wanted to do is possible within our larger company framework. We had knowledge share sessions with their team to learn how we can use our internal content API to power the data behind this tool, which would inform the front-end design and then also future-proof the feature by automatically pulling in newly reviewed music. So here's the concept. When you search for an artist, we display the reviewed albums of the top 20 similar artists plotted by their Pitchfork rating. On the left here is my first quote unquote final design that I felt pretty good about. And on the right is the much more clear and robust version that came together after lots of workshopping and collaboration. As a designer, it can be hard to give yourself the necessary space from your own designs to see the user experience clearly. You're so close to it, it feels like there can't possibly be any confusion about what you've designed. I mean, it's so obvious, right? And now it's time for the user research and UX writing teams to take you to town. Be open to the questions and suggestions at this phase because they'll only make your designs more successful. Here's a clear example of when I'm excited about the possibilities of something new and I want to show it all to the user right away. I added multiple filters and switches with corresponding colorways to explore the results through genre, date, and rating in multiple layouts. But by sharing this with actual Pitchfork readers through our incredible user experience team, we learned what was most important for them, which helped us refine the interactions and make sure that everything was easily understood, yet still fun to discover. We removed unnecessary filters and we prioritized simplicity. Another incredibly important part of any user experience is the content design. This includes all of the copy on the page, the hierarchy of information, and instructional text. As we had a more solid understanding of our final destination, lots of weird edge cases presented themselves that we would need to explain to the user. Like, how would you read the results if there were no reviewed albums for the artist you searched for, but the chart showed similar artists anyway? A UX writer helps massage these scenarios into something that feels approachable and intuitive. Our UX writer also brought together multiple teams for the most important decision. What do we call this thing? We hosted a workshop with Pitchfork editors so they could bring their deep knowledge of the magazine and its history to narrow down on a name. The name needed to be not only a clue as to what the experience would be, but also needed to fit in the site navigation bar, the menu dropdown, on the tool itself, and work well in social channels and newsletters. The group came up with 5 top contenders out of this big brainstorming board and landed on Reviews Explorer. Here's a peek at what this feature looks like. Collaboration takes time. The entire process took about a year, longer than most things we've worked on because the discovery and exploration process was prioritized and encouraged. It allowed us time to collaborate with so many experts who pushed it beyond our expectations. It might surprise you to hear that I'm sharing a project that launched 2.5 years ago, but it's still so relevant. It continues to see engaged traffic and has a much higher time spent than average articles on the site. It's not only a success through measurable metrics, though, but this project helped Data Story Lab to integrate with other sectors of the design team and foster relationships and leverage expertise that we continue to grow and learn from. I'll leave you with two of my interpretations of the Condé Code as it relates to collaboration and design. Leave room for experimentation and lean on others' expertise. Now let's hear from Danielle to talk through a project from the New Yorker.
Thank you, Lily. I'm going to share a bit about how we collaborate across teams and departments to create a brand new audio tab in our New Yorker apps. So a good place to start for any project is the problem definition. And for us, our problem statement revolved around the difficulty of finding audio in our app. Our users were bending over backwards to not only discover audio, but to return to it once they started listening. And from this very first step in a project, we should be identifying our stakeholders and collaborators to ensure that they're aligned with the problem that we're trying to solve. In our case, I needed to collaborate with product designers to design the experience, and we needed to work with UX research to better understand our user needs, project management to stick to our timelines and objectives, as well as editorial, who selects the stories that receive audio narration, and the art department, who directs the art for each piece, as well as our engineers, who bring our vision to life in our apps. They all contributed to this problem statement, and they each brought their own unique perspective as well. And it's important to acknowledge that. As designers, we might be most focused on the user aspect of this problem. How do we meet our users' needs and expectations? But a project manager may be more concerned about big picture objectives and constraints, while the art department may be focused specifically on the best representation of our art for each story. So it's important as a good collaborator to not only identify these folks and the unique perspectives they bring to a project, but to bring them in early and align on the project's goal so we can then create the hypothesis together. And our hypothesis for this project was that if we collect audio in a central place, it would make it easier for our users to discover and engage with that audio, especially on the go when they're driving a car or commuting, gardening, or walking their dog. And we created the same alignment around this hypothesis. We want everyone aboard this train as early as possible because that alignment helps to keep everyone focused during the design process when we're in the weeds, iterating, responding to everybody's feedback, and invested in the project's success. So we have a problem statement, we have a hypothesis, we have alignment thus far, but how do we get from the blank screen to the final design? We've already noted that the design process can be winding and complex, and sharing our work and aligning with stakeholders can be just as complicated, especially when we have so many people to align. We don't always move forward. Sometimes we get feedback late, or we introduce unexpected constraints, but sometimes it is that exact circling that ultimately gets us to a simpler, clearer solution than we had before. So don't be afraid of those circles. But how do we take our collaborators along for the journey when things are still opaque and complicated for us as designers? This is where we need to focus on sharing early, often, and with intent. And let's just take a moment to acknowledge something that could be really scary. When the water is still murky to you and the designs don't always feel as polished as you like, it doesn't always feel great to share with your stakeholders around so much uncertainty. And that is why the intent aspect of this is so important, because intent it gives us something to talk about. It helps establish boundaries in a discussion, even if it's temporary, and it helps us to identify the questions we need to answer as a team together. For example, one big question I grappled with during this project was the content strategy and organization of the audio tab. We collaborated with UX research to user test different collections to help us determine how users find stories they want to listen to, under what circumstances they might prefer listening over reading, and how much context they need before they make a decision to listen to a story. And that led us to questions for our editorial teammates. We worked closely with them to understand their curation capabilities and depth of our archive. And when they ultimately came back and said they didn't have the bandwidth to curate unique collections every week, we turned to our engineering teammates to determine how we could build this collection of audio stories in a way that maintained itself with limited editorial oversight. If we didn't approach some of these early murky conversations with intentful questions, we might not have realized important constraints early on, and we may have designed a solution that wasn't ultimately sustainable or successful. And this collaboration doesn't happen overnight, and it wasn't always straightforward. To keep everyone aligned along the way, we documented our process and invited feedback early and often, whether we were aligning on what research questions to ask, creating design principles from those research findings, or iterating on different editorial packages. We tried to work in collaborative environments, whether that was Figma, Google Docs, Sheets, and Decks, which allowed us to chip away at these questions asynchronously, which respects our teammates' time and their other priorities and allows us to get feedback at so many more points along the way that wouldn't have been possible if we required attendance at every meeting. In the end, our solution created a new home for audio with 5 unique self-sustaining collections. Since launch, we've seen an 18% increase in weekly audio listens and new habits around listening to stories on the go, which wouldn't have been possible without close collaboration with all of the teams that I mentioned along the way. So when starting a project, I hope you keep these ideas in mind. Align early on clear goals and principles, but be flexible enough to shift as you iterate and collaborate with others. And share early, often, and with intent. When in doubt, share it out. Now over to Bea to talk about Vogue events.
Thank you, Danielle. That was fantastic. Hi, I'm Bea, Senior Product Designer at Vogue. Well, Vogue is the destination for fashion, the voice of our culture, the narrator, defining storytelling that influences global audiences everywhere around the world. But today, I'm going to talk about a recent project that me and my team have been focusing in the past year, the Vogue event experience. We collaborated with both users and stakeholders, which for Vogue is the editorial team, to unlock the vision of Vogue events. And so what are these Vogue events? Have you ever heard about the Met Gala? Have you ever heard about Vogue World? Well, Vogue has many events during the year. Also for sort of fashion, which happens in different cities around the world. In these events, editors sit next to fashion experts and discuss the future of fashion. And then we have also the Vogue Club, which offer our members, because this is one of our premium membership of Vogue, events where they can meet the editors and understand a little bit more of behind the scene. And you know, these events are quite exclusive and everyone wants to participate. But if you look at everyone that is our doors, well, we have millions or billions that wants to visit us every day. And then we have also some that perhaps like read every day, maybe millions. And then we have some that are subscribing with us, maybe coming from the print heritage. And then we have that loyal customer, the Vogue Club members. Those are thousands, and they are the most loyal customer we have. User. And these are the only ones that really understand the magic of Vogue events and what they can offer. But here it is. How can we open the doors to this most exclusive club that we have in Vogue Club? And this was our challenge. How do we open the doors to the wider audience? How can we engage our user? How can we make them feel part of a community with our exclusive Vogue Club events? And how can we offer even editors a really useful tools when promoting events? You know, we needed to start from something. We listen our users and we listen our editors. We wanted to understand really their challenges and their dreams. Product and design collaborates far and often with user research team in order to define the research that then will inform the problem to be solved, isn't it, Lisa? But, you know, we need to deeply understand not just like the task that's been given, but our users and our editors need, in this case, the stakeholders. So what did we do? Well, we mapped. I love mapping in general, proper product designer here, but we mapped our user experience when facing Vogue events. From the moment the user searched on the foreign events till he decided to acquire a ticket, and when they participate to the event, but even after. This has enabled us to understand the pain points and goals of our channel, but also to understand how many teams in Condé Nast were collaborating together for the success of this experience. In fact, Condé Nast, we collaborated together a lot. And you know what we did next, in fact? We just like love this, but we sit together on a board because we ideate together, product, engineer, editorial, architects, all together on one board in order to define what this future is. Because, across department and cross-collaboration is key at Condé Nast. If there is something we've learned in the years, is that the solution will never come when you're alone. It's always together. And it's important to have everybody's expertise on the matter. And, Condé is a very big organization with so many offices all around the world. And I mean, let's think about it. If we think about the design process, we want to start here, and then we might have these other guys, right? And then what about this other team, right? Like at least, but then you start to think about how many other departments are touching everything that you have to work with. And we need also this guy, of course, and these guys, and suddenly, wow, isn't it quite messy? We were saying it before, weren't we? But my role as a designer is actually to simplify. I am a facilitator. I need to simplify and cut through the complexity, through the noise, in order to serve the user and also the business. I need to serve a clear solution. And therefore, what we did next in our Vogue team was, actually also thanks to Anna, the product manager, was to prioritize. Now that we listen everybody together, we wanted to find a way how to really serve that purpose. And in order to do that, we need to focus on simple solution. And this really, here they are. These are the prototypes packed with all our assumption and design decision ready to be presented once again in front of our user. So now that we can test their needs once again, and we can really learn them and understand them. And perhaps even from one simple user testing, we can learn a tons from this user. It's incredible what a user testing can teach us. And then together, only by working jointly with these other, we can successfully meet our goals. In fact, thanks to all this collaboration that doesn't happen only in the design team, but it needs to happen also with our stakeholders and with our user, because it's thanks to collaboration that this process can keep going on. And we will never stop ideating together at Condé Nast, because this is actually what makes us really successful in what we do. And isn't it, Lisa, actually, this is not part of our Condé code, isn't it?
Yeah, so let's bring it back a moment to that Condé code we talked you through earlier on, before we went into each of the three areas of the business. And we just want to leave you with a little bit more meaning and context behind these 6 items in our code. So a quick reminder, but let's dig deeper into each one of them. So champion all voices. Exceptional does not mean exclusive. The diversity of perspectives, opinions, and skill sets can actually be your greatest strength. Be curious, our next point. We're here because we're all passionately curious. Let your own ideas evolve from inspiration from all of those that are around you on a day-to-day basis. Should focus on tomorrow. Ensure that you're staying at the forefront of culture, the forefront of technology, the forefront of what you do. Don't stop looking for new innovative ways for you to revolutionize your culture and improve the way your audiences, whoever they may be, experience the world around you. Stay inspired. We're nothing without our creativity. So push yourselves and innovate together and ultimately learn from each other. Earn trust. This is a key one. This is the crux of collaboration. Trust isn't something you demand, it's something that you earn. When we trust each other, the content, the information, perspectives, they all shine brighter and further. Trust can be the hardest one, but actually can be your most prized asset. And finally, it goes without saying to just simply work together. Pull in the same direction, focus on the things that you share, whilst also celebrating your differences. We are at our best when we all act as one, and that goes for the entire design community. Because again, none of us is as smart as all of us. And one more thing. Just have fun with it. A reminder that all of those 6 simple rules that we've taken you through today only really work when you nail the basics. So be human, have fun, and then the rest will all come naturally. Thanks for listening to us today. And we'll hand it over to see if there's any time for questions or anything you'd like to pick our brains on.
Amazing, thanks all. That was such an interesting talk. It does definitely melts my brain a little bit thinking about how many users, brands, countries, teams, collaborators and stakeholders you have. If anyone does have any questions, please do submit them now, either in the chat or the Q&A, and I can get through that. I think I can see one from Peter in there. Hey, Peter. So kind of you did briefly mention earlier kind of the challenges of time zones when collaborating with those on the other side of the world. Kind of what obviously collaborating with people with kind of teams in different countries comes with a lot of challenges. What would you say kind of were kind of the biggest challenges, and do you have any tips kind of for those kind of struggling to collaborate with people in different countries?
Well, I'm relatively new to Condé Nast. I keep saying I'm the new girl. I've been here 6 months now. I'm not the new girl any longer. But ultimately, on previous roles, I've maybe had a UK-US collaboration in areas that I've worked. And we had that. I simply seen it as hey, I've got 5 extra hours in my life. Being a working mom, 3 kids, those extra 5 hours can sometimes come in handy as well. But when I moved to Condé Nast, I realized that got stretched even further. And my team is distributed across US, India, London, and that time zone gets completely stretched. I believe Lily was saying it's difficult, like New York's only waking up as Bangalore's going to bed. And how I, as kind of a leader in the UX research team, can even just simply get my team together is one of the biggest challenges I have. So working on those time zones. So I think there's a teeny tiny window where if these guys get up early and these guys go to bed late, we can overlap and we can cross. And this is where like the power of collaboration tools and asynchronous working has been phenomenal. So, utilizing things like Miro or Slack channels, having shared documents. I mean, it was even testament to the 2 time zones we were working with today, where we had Lily and Danielle in New York, myself and B in London, to simply pull this presentation together. Having that power of asynchronous working and online collaboration tools such as Miro, Slack, shared Google Slides was the only way we could survive. You know how it is for the rest of you ladies. You're looking at it from the other side, Danielle and Lily, when you're waking up super early. We're quite lucky in the UK. We're in that kind of overhang each of the time zones. So how's it for the US?
I'm a morning person, so I don't mind waking up early too much, but I think we do a really good job at Condé of leveraging, like Lisa said, that asynchronous communication and collaboration using tools like Figma and Slack to essentially leave messages and notes for one another so that the team can pick back up on our progress at the morning of their time zone. And we can just keep the ball rolling instead of creating blockers for each other. So whether that be notes on progress, documenting what we did over the course of a day, or any open questions that would be helpful for the other team to consider during their working hours, so that way we can continue to push forward.
Yeah, I think the key for me has been communicate often. Like, just if you have a question, a comment, write it down, and having everything documented for that next person who's coming in, as you're going to bed, as you're waking up, has really been key.
I think, it's finding the positives in it as well. We were working on this huge project for the New Yorker a while back, but it was fast turnaround. We needed to have rapid insight. There was lots of areas to communicate with. And we had this really kind of beautiful synchronized handover process, whereas, you know, we were going to bed, we could go, hey, Claire in New York, can you pick that up? And then I'll pick up, and we just left little notes for each other on Slack to say, this is as far as I got. So essentially, we've bought ourselves the gift of time by simply being across so many different time zones, and we just make it work, really.
Awesome, thank you. So we've got a question here from Peter. Peter asks, he says, Danielle mentioned her team documented kind of their process. Is there a Condé Nast wide design process, possibly with variants for different channels?
That's a really good question. And I'd be curious to hear from my other panelists as well in terms of an overall Condé collaboration process. But I think that in our case, our collaboration tends to be very flexible. There isn't a strict set of rules that, okay, if we follow A, B, and C, we know that it will always lead to success. I think it depends a lot on the project that we're working on and the people we're working with. My collaboration, when my teammates are all in New York, like for the audio tab, everyone was very central in the US or in India. That collaboration process looks a lot different when we share more hours during the day than when I'm working with B in London, where our hours are a little bit more limited. So I think as long as we're able to be flexible and to kind of take a survey of where are we, what are our goals, who is going to be working on this project, who needs to be informed versus responsible throughout a project is key to creating the collaboration that would work best for that specific instance. So it's kind of like a non-answer. I'm sorry, there's no like hard and fast rules, but I think being flexible and allowing for us to pivot or adjust even as the project goes on is really important.
Absolutely. I'll say from my experience, there are sort of like a family of documentation documents that exist that all kind of like branch out and create their own thing for different projects. I've like created my own for things and then seen other people's, you know, like QA docs or questions and things that they've asked throughout a project and been like, oh, that's such a good idea. I'm going to implement that in my next one. And like having those knowledge share sessions with other designers and other parts of the team to understand how they approach those same, you know, crux points of a design process has informed and changed the documentation as we go, which I think is really cool. It's like a grassroots documentation effort, and it's working well.
I think it's just that, as Danielle said, being flexible, open to change, adapt, try new things. But again, going back to that form of good collaboration, where if you get the baseline right, where you have that social level, you have the understanding, we've got the processes in place to enable and unlock that sharing, where we have opportunities to learn from each other. Now, as you know, from all of the big brands, we've got lots of different core bubbles and core departments, but because we have this underlining kind of Condé code to live by and collaboration to live by, the one team may have like nailed it on the head for this great way. So go, oh, tell me more about that, because it could help in what I'm doing. So that kind of flexibility and adaptability really, really helps along the way as well, by having those baselines set in stone first of all.
Brilliant. Awesome. Thank you. So we have our next question here. This person asks, as a junior UX designer, how can I influence and encourage collaboration in my company? Any tips appreciated?
I think one of the tips that I might recommend is to try to get to know your collaborators as other humans. It's difficult sometimes when you're working with folks on the other side of the world and you're only interacting with them via Zoom screen to start a meeting, talk about what you need to talk about, and then end the meeting and you go off and you don't know anything about that person's life. You don't quite know like what they might be struggling with in the background. So I think it's helpful to just like meet and understand people as the complex people that they are. And that gives you, that builds the trust that Lisa was talking about in order to establish a more firm foundation for collaboration moving forward. Because if people feel like they know you, if they feel like they're being heard, then they're more open to collaborating in ways that maybe make them a little bit uncomfortable. Like maybe they'll be more likely to speak up at a meeting and provide their feedback quickly instead of asynchronously. If they feel like, okay, I'm surrounded by people I trust, I feel like I can provide my real time, like honest truth to my teammates because I know that they're there, they're going to listen to me, they're going to take things into consideration. So building those relationships takes time and can be tricky depending on who you're working with. But I do think that that creates a really solid base for many different types of collaboration.
Great. And if we go back to the earlier slides in the presentation, we were looking at the definition of collaboration, but particularly in business, is about finding that business need and that purpose and that goal. So if the junior designer has that, shared business goal and business purpose, then it becomes so much easier to work it, in alignment as well. And, naturally very biased as the UX researcher, sometimes user research, a lot of the time actually user research can be that glue that brings the room together. It's great. Everyone has this passion for understanding, as designers, what can we do to make this product better, more simplified, something that our users will really, really love and want. So sometimes I really lean into the user research side of things to bring people all into the room and then figure out that common goal and purpose together, and then the rest follows through.
And perhaps there is something to say even to be a bit more proactive. There is so much to learn and that I keep learning on ways that we can promote in a sync way, but even in a reality, like a workshop is an async crit, or is it perhaps like just a meeting, or can we get together on this board? Can we frame the problem so that our goals is clear? All this will come, but I do think there are, like Danielle was saying, the first is building the trust, getting to know the people around us, and knowing that we are here for one goal, all together, trying to solve all these problems. So yeah, maybe this could be different ways that we can tackle this problem together, but knowing that you're not alone. And try always to reach out, ask yourself the question, is the first way that you might find the answer. And if you don't think that you can find the answer by yourself, but it will always be with somebody else. So use the tools that you have in place. If in your place you have a channel like Slack or Windows, or I don't know, there are so many nowadays. But that's the first prompt to communicate, to maybe fix on ceremonies around that. Where is the right moment for collaborating, when is not? If your other people in the team are really busy, maybe there is something also there that, and also be creative. There is no right or wrong. There is just a lot of learnings on the road.
And I think people like to be included. There are a number of folks who maybe have too much on their plate, but it's nice to be recognized as an expert in your field. So I love when somebody comes to me and says like, hey, I have this random question about this specific word in my experience. Can we talk about it? Can you give me 5 minutes of your time so that I can hear your feedback? Like that's such a great way to get those conversations started. They don't even have to be a formal meeting. They don't have to take too long, as long as you have like those intentful questions. So I think that most people in our field would be honored to like have somebody approach them with a question and pick their brain about something that we're all really passionate about.
Yeah, so true.
Awesome. Yeah, no, it's such great tips. Thank you so much. That is just about all we have time for. But yeah, again, thank you. Such an interesting presentation. And yeah, amazing insights into Condé Nast and kind of your processes there. We will have the recording available ASAP. So yeah, we should have that within the next hour or so. So for everyone watching, do keep an eye on when that goes live. We'll be back tomorrow at 11 a.m. Central European time for 3 more talks tomorrow. There is still time to sign up, so we hope to see everyone back then. Again, thank you all, and thanks for everyone that tuned in.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.